So Bestarc has sent me their MIG-145. This is generation 7. So this is just a 110 volt gasless MIG lift TIG and stick machine. And I actually really love these little affordable little flux core welders. So let's open this up and check it out and see what they include with the actual package. Then we'll get to plugging it in and testing it out and see what it will do. Very nicely packaged. Got a box along the side here. Let's put this big one aside for a minute. We'll open the, I suppose this is the accessories. See what's included here. Maybe one of these days I'll be able to talk them into sending me one of their TIG torches so we can check out the TIG functions. This is capable of lift TIG, stick, as well as flux core, not really MIG, but flux core wire welding. So we've got an instruction manual. Oh, they sent me a roll of wire. Self-shielded flux core wire, E71TGS, 1 millimeter. Got a ground clamp. Pretty par for the course. Nice, especially for the price. I think this machine currently is selling on Amazon for $130 or something like that. So I'll put links to it in the description. And I'd really like to review their MIG-145. I think it's the Gen 9 version that you can hook gas to. It has a gas solenoid so you can do actual MIG welding with it. That one would be fun to test out someday. And you're pretty well standard stick holder for stick welding. It's got a carrying strap, 3 extra tips in here, and a wire wheel, 0.9 and 0.8, and we'll look on the machine. Maybe the 0.040 is actually installed. And they've got a little wrench for the tips, installing those into the MIG gun, which must be connected to the machine because I don't see it in here. Small, lightweight, affordable. They fit almost anywhere, and they're just hard to beat as far as I'm concerned. That's pretty lightweight. That might be 25 or 30 pounds. And it looks like that's all that's left in the box. Get that out of the way. Take this bag off of here and we will check it out. All right, so on the back we've just got an on-off switch and a fan, and then your cord. So the cord comes out of the back of the machine. Way better design than the Harbor Freight 90 amp in my opinion. That way you can get yourself a little farther away from the outlet. Looks like our MIG gun is actually permanently attached, which I'm not a huge fan of that these days. Be interesting to see if their Gen 9 is that way. The one that you can actually do MIG with gas. Pretty standard gun with the tip, and the tip in here is 0.040. So it does actually have the 040 tip installed. On the front of the machine you've got positive and negative for your stick leads and or ground clamp, depending on when you're welding with a flux core. It should be DC-EN, DC electrode negative. So this will be negative, and your ground clamp or work clamp should go into positive, directly below where the lead comes out of the machine. Couple of little spring-loaded clips. That's pretty cool. And your standard type setup here for your wire feed and spool holder. Nice little, I'll give you some close-ups of these a little bit later in the video, but you've got a nice little chart there. I do like the fact that it's actually stickered to the lid and easily readable. A wire feed button. And let's check this wheel and see what we've got. There is a wheel installed on the machine, so let's see what this is. .080 on one side and 1.0. So for the 040 wire is actually already installed in the machine. At least that's how mine came. So that's a plus. All right, we'll get this loaded up with the wire that they sent with the machine. And we'll give it a try, see how it welds. Open that up so you can feed the wire. And there we go. And then we'll use the tool they provided to tighten that. That's kind of handy. Snug that down and we are good to go. We'll clip that off about a ½ inch or so, 3/4 of an inch. And we're ready to start welding. All right, let's have a look at the user interface on this Bestarc MIG-145, and this is the 110 volt flux core only version. Of course, it does lift TIG as well as stick, but as far as the interface is concerned, I actually really like this screen. Up here you've got a button for 2T or 4T. 2T is pull the trigger, and while you're holding the trigger it welds. When you let go of the trigger, it'll stop welding. And then you've got 4T, which is pull the trigger, let go, and it starts to weld and will weld until you pull the trigger and let go again. If you're doing a real long continuous weld on something. Over here it indicates gasless. It's showing that the fan is on and I can hear it. Not too loud, but you can hear it, and we're showing 110 volts. And I'm plugged into a 15 amp socket, regular house socket. And I'm using probably a 20-foot extension cord. So we'll see how that works. Probably not bad because I'm not welding anything very thick. Over here we're indicating we're on MIG. It is a synergic machine. So you set the amperage and the wire feed speed will automatically adjust for you. Let's see what we've got here on the bottom. 16.5 volts or 50 amps. Up to 20.7 volts and 135 amps. If you look at the chart inside the lid, it'll tell you what amperage you need to use for whatever thickness you're going to weld, and it has that listed in millimeters. Then you've got 3 different wire sizes down here. 0.030, 0.035, and 0.040. So let's move that down to 0.040, which is the wire that came with the machine. Let's run some beads and see how it works out. And I just noticed the fan has just stopped. The indicator is showing that the fan is no longer on, so it must have a temperature controlled fan. I'm sure that'll come on shortly after I start welding. But again, it's a nice quiet fan, not annoying whatsoever. So let me get this set up. We'll run a few test beads on some scrap that I have laying around, and we'll just see how it welds. And I think we'll start on this galvanized steel tubing. Yes, I know that it gives off a toxic gas. That's why I do it with the door wide open or outside, or use a fan, something to keep that from going right into your face. It's about 2 millimeter, I think. We'll start at the lowest setting that the machine offers, which is 50 amps or 16.5 volts. First time using these ARCCAPTAIN gloves. These are actually real nice gloves that ARCCAPTAIN sent to me to test out. First time I've used them. So far so good. I actually really like the fit. I'll probably do several beads and I'll clean them up and we'll have a look at them after I weld all these items together. It's been a while since I've done any welding. Since my move, I've been pretty busy with fixing other things, but let's give this a shot and see what happens. The fan came on instantly on the machine. As soon as the arc started, the fan came on. Decent looking bead. I thought it was going to burn through. Let me turn this up to 60 amps. That's giving me 17 volts, and we'll run a bead right next to that. That looks a little more appropriate for this material. Neither one has burnt through. Let's go ahead and we'll go on up to 70 amps and see if it'll burn through. And then we'll try a T-joint or a fillet weld. All right, a little bit wider, a little bit hotter. Okay, I did burn through in the center of that, and I was a little fast at the start, but I'll clean it up and show it to you. Let me try one more on this backside. I need to adjust that gap. I got a little gap in that. Let me pound on that a little bit. Still has a decent gap in it, so I'm going to turn it down, back down to 60 amps. That was on 70. Let's try this fillet weld at 60. And maybe I can do it without burning through, but I don't know. We'll see. That is not the ticket. I started burning through right away because I've got a poor fitment on that. Let's try it on the end here. It's a better fit. That's better. Let's do the other end while we're at it. Nope, that burnt through too. All right, we'll clean that up and have a look at it. Let's try, this is 14 gauge, I believe. And I'm just going to weld the two pieces together with a butt joint here. Get a tack on those. And I think this is stainless. So we'll butt joint that together on this stainless. I think we'll stay at 60 amps on the machine. And that burnt through a couple of times. Well, maybe I should be down around 50. This is a bed frame. We'll try a few runs down the side of this. This is just under 1/8 inch thick. We'll try a couple of fillet welds. And we'll go back up to 70. And that is way too cold. I should have known better. Let's try 90. We'll just go right next to that one. Well, that wasn't good. Let's try 100, 110. Make a big jump. Right next to that. Much better. Told you I'm out of practice. My tech broke over on the end. That piece is getting pretty hot. Let's see, just for fun, let's crank it up to full power. I've got an 1/8 inch piece of angle iron here. I'll just run a bead on that, and at full 135 amps, that's 20.7 volts. I'll just kind of do this little fillet on here just to see what happens, see how it does at max. Nice. I'm surprised I didn't trip the breaker. Extension cord on 110 volts with a 15 amp breaker, and I really like the arc is really smooth. There is some spatter, but it's not too awful bad. We'll grab the camera, we'll have a look at these close up. Horrible welds. I'm really out of practice. But anyway, that's not the point of the video. It's just to see how well this welder does. And obviously I need a little practice, but it sure seems to weld nice and smooth. I'll show you all the welds before I clean them up, then I'll clean them up and we'll have a look at them. Alright, here's a look at the 3 beads I ran. The one on the right was 50 amps, and we went to 60 for the center, which was about right, and then we went to 70, which was getting to be a little too hot for the one on the left. There's where I burned through on the fillet weld there. There was the first fillet weld I did. That's probably the best T-joint I did, but I still think it was a bit hot. It was right on the verge of burning through the whole time. 16th inch stainless, burnt through in the center and right at the end there. I mean, it welded it. I just need to work on the settings. That's my fault. Then on this 1/8 inch angle iron, the last kind of fillet that I did on the full power, 135 amps, 20.7 volts. This is on 110 volt power. The fan just stopped on the machine, so it ran for a couple of minutes after I stopped welding. So let's clean them up, we'll have a look. Alright, all cleaned up. Here's a look at the first beads. One on the bottom was 50 amps. That was too cold. Barely got through any penetration. The middle one was about right, and the top one was a little too warm. So 70 amps up here, 60 amps, and 50. 60 I think would be about right, maybe 65 for this particular material, about 2 millimeter thick, maybe 1.5. And then I tried to run a couple of T-joints, too cold, burnt through, too hot. A lot of this is just poor technique. I haven't done any welding for quite some time, so that's the best joint, and I had really good settings there. Was able to run that proper speed and everything, and that's a really nice, that's a nice weld. You can see I got pretty good penetration there. Of course, I'm right on the edge, and that will affect your weld as well. And then I was just way too hot there on this attempt and burnt through. Then I tried the butt weld on the 16, I think it's 14 or 16 gauge stainless. Again, way too hot. I had a little bit of a gap. There's the backside. But the machine, I think, is doing a good job of adjusting the settings. I really like the Synergic on this machine. And it seems to, once you get the right amperage set, it does a really nice job. This was the 1/8 inch angle iron. I did a little T-joint in the corner there. Not a bad weld. A little more practice can make that look real nice. But that weld real nice, and that was at the highest setting, 135 amps on 110 volts. So it'll definitely weld 1/8 inch with no problem, and that's what I do the most of, to be honest. That or thinner. And let's see how we did on these T-joints on this bed frame material. First one was too cold. Second one was a little warmer, but still poor technique. Didn't get a puddle established before I started moving, and then I was finally kind of starting to get the hang of it and got the settings about right there. I think that was at 70 amps if I remember right. But that's a respectable weld right here. I'd be happy with that on a project. Got some heat signatures on the back on all 3 of them. Alright, next I'm going to set up, we'll try a little bit of stick welding. I've got some 3 3/32 inch 6013 rods. We'll run a few beads on some of this 1/8 inch material and just see how it does. Again, been a long time since I've done that, so this could be a train wreck. We'll see how it turns out. So let's switch to MMA. Synergic, 110 volts. The fan is currently on, and I'm using these Forney 6013 3/32 rods. And looking at the chart, it says 3/32, 2.5 millimeter, 50 to 70 amps. You can run either DCEP or DCEN or AC. We're going to run them on DCEP, electrode positive. So the way I've got the machine set up, I've got my electrode over here in the positive, and then my ground clamp or work clamp on the negative. We'll go ahead and set it on 70. So this is real nice for a beginner or somebody who just wants something quick and easy to set up. It's going to give us 22.8 volts, but we're set at 70 amps. Okay, we're all set up on the Bestarc MIG-145 with the MMA function. I'm really liking these ARCCAPTAIN gloves, by the way. I will leave links for these in the description if you're interested in checking out a pair for yourself. And let's see if I can run a bead. Feels like I'm starting all over again. It's been so long. 6 months or so. Let's try it. All right, well, it ran that with no problem whatsoever. I'll get comfortable here and we'll try a fillet weld. Well, it looks all right with the slag on. We'll see if I got any inclusions, which I've been known to do from time to time. I'm going to do one more fillet weld right next to that. That one not so good, but that was all me. We'll try the rest of this rod. I'll just run a straight bead, flat bead on plate here. So here's the first 6013 flat bead on plate I did. Came out pretty nice. Not bad. There's the back side. It definitely didn't burn through or anything. Remember, we're running this machine on 110 volts with a 15 amp breaker. I have not tripped a breaker yet, and I definitely need work on my fillet welds. There's the second flat bead I did, and it was too hot. And there's my fillet welds. Terrible. No fusion between the two parts, only in a couple little spots. Most of that's poor technique, and I think the machine needs to go up a little higher. Even though I'm set on 70 amps, it's not hot enough, in my opinion, for this particular joint in this material. So I'm going to, just for fun, I'm going to run it up to 80 amps. See if I can run a bead across the top of that and make it look better. Huge slag inclusions and no fusion right in this section. And then the majority of this particular weld. That's probably mostly user error, but I want to try it at 80 and see. Sometimes these machines run a little cooler than what they indicate. I don't know. I haven't put a meter on it to check, but I'm going to run it up to 80. I'm going to run a couple beads over the top of those and see if I can do any better. I'm just going to weld over that slag and everything just to see what happens. This is just for fun, so it's not really an indication of whether the machine's any good or not. It's just me playing around. So let's check it out. All right, let's turn up to 80, which is 10 over what they recommend, and we'll see how she does. And I need the practice, so it's not going to hurt anything. It's just scrap and practice. That's what it's all about. I think I better turn my hood on. Yeah, that'll help. Well, let's see what that did. So that weld there on the left, I went over the top. I still have a slag inclusion right at the beginning and then almost at the end, but it does look better. So the machine is capable. It's obvious I need some more practice, but welding is one of those perishable skills. If you don't use it, you lose it. But shouldn't take too long. A little bit more practice, run some more beads to be able to get that under control. But I do like the arc. It's nice and smooth, and the machine appears to do quite well with at least the 6013 rods I've been trying. All right, let's sit down. We'll talk about the final thoughts on the machine and I'll let you know what I think about it. So what do I think about the Bestarc MIG-145? Again, this is the flux core only. It does not have a gas inlet, and this is the 110 volt version only. It's not the dual voltage. I like the machine. I think it welds really nice. I'm a huge fan of these affordable little welders. There's a million different kinds out there. This one seems to do real nice. I like the synergic settings and the interface. I love the digital display. Of course, it's small, light, and portable. If you want all the details, I'll leave links for it in the description so you can go check it out. You can get this on Amazon. I think at the time, I looked at a couple days ago, at the time of this posting, I think it was at $129. They have them sale prices all the time, so check around, get it for the best price if it's something you're interested in. This is the Generation 7. I'd really like to check out the Generation 9 with the gas connection so you can actually do MIG welding with it. If Bestarc happens to send me one, we'll give it a whirl and have a look at that machine. But I'd also like to test out the TIG functions, but I don't have a TIG torch to go with it. If they send me a TIG torch, we'll give it a go and we'll see how it does. I do have an argon bottle, so real handy little machines. They don't take up much room in your shop. They're affordable. They run well for thinner gauge materials, which is what I do mostly for a hobbyist welder or a garage welder, just home shop type stuff. Obviously, welding skills are perishable, so if you don't use them, you lose them, but the synergic settings makes it easy to run a few beads and get your settings locked in where you need them to be so you can make decent welds and build pretty cool stuff. Nice, quiet, temperature controlled fan, which I really like. Things that I dislike: I don't care for the permanently affixed MIG lead into the machine. I like the type, like the YesWelder, where you can remove the MIG gun altogether if you want to. Like if you're stick welding or if you're using the TIG functions, you don't have to have this in the way. Anyway, Bestarc MIG-145, nice little machine. All the links and everything in the description. Do love the ARCCAPTAIN gloves, real nice. I'll link those in the description as well. And until then, click the video on the screen now, have a look at another little flux core welding machine that I really like, and we'll see you at that video.